The president spoke about how we are handling open defecation, and it was impressive to hear some of the numbers he put out, the 4,000 toilets that have been built. But we didn't really hear anything on enforcement of policy in that regard, and also realistically on keeping the promise to make Accra the cleanest city. Everybody seems to be running away from that part, because as important as free SHS was as a promise, this was also a significant promise. Yeah. So you can add that to your plate.
I think we all concerned as Ghanaians. We sweep our rooms every day. So it is important to sweep our environment and make sure that we keep our environment very clean. But to react to some very few issues from a lawyer's point of view. Lawyer, the issue is that for free tuition, we all know parents don't pay teachers to teach their wards.
In the public schools, yes.
Yes, in the public schools. We all know that one. Yeah. It's a fundamental thing that we all know. Okay?
Across the country.
Across the country, obviously, since independence. When you talk about boarding school, the biggest challenge was feeding. The feeding fee that parents were paying. But for PTA, library, entertainment, and all those things,
facility use,
everybody pays. So for a government to come and take responsibility paying for all these things, you wouldn't tell me that such a government is not doing well, and because of politics, some people think
we didn't say that.
I cleared your portion by letting you know that for tuition fee, obviously it was free.
Has commended
to sit here and say because of politics we find it difficult to be honest, and those of us from the northern region painted the picture as if we went to school free.
When we didn't.
Because 70% of the fees, people outside northern region were paying, which is the feeding fees, which was so critical. And it was so difficult that if you are a northerner and then they want to send you outside northern region to school, your parents always had challenges, because you have to now go and struggle for northern scholarship for your child. Some go there, they don't even get it at all till they complete. So it was a huge challenge. So please give credit to that one. And then he's talking about figures here and there, and they got somewhere 14%, and they slipped up to, if you got 14% and you slip up to 3.4. In 2017, we did 8.1. Yes, 2018, we did 6.8.
Slip.
Yes, but you look at the range.
It tells you that it's not
But
constant.
if you move up to 14, and all of a sudden, in less than 4 years, you slip to 3.5. It's dangerous.
Context.
Very dangerous.
Really?
But
let him speak.
But I know.
He's my leader.
I agree with him. I don't have a problem at all. So if you look at the rate at which we grow in the economy, there is some kind of consistency. Obviously, interest rates, we are all concerned, because to pay about 23, 24, thereabout, is quite high. Okay? But how much were we paying? And lawyer talked about we trying to stop comparing. I agree with him. But if people in government just stepped in to opposition are now holding you accountable and saying all manner of things, trying to demonize the good things you are doing, you will have to refer them. And that's why once upon a time, we tried to refer them. Because you wouldn't be doing interest rate around 35%. And somebody is doing today 23, 24, and they say the person is not doing well. That is intellectual dishonesty. Okay, so Ini & Co knows very well that yes, they are in opposition. They must paint the picture as if it's not well, and thinking that people will give them power. That one is normal. But we all know that obviously Nanado and MPP is not holding party and celebrating as if we are in heaven. We've turned the country into heaven, and all is well, all is good. Nanado never said that. We always admitted that there is a lot to do. But we are on track. That is the most important thing. We are on track. And that is why we're calling every meaningful Ghanaian that, look, if it's about the NDC and MPP, they are not better alternatives. We are still doing better than them. And for that matter, we think the 2020 elections, obviously we should be renewed, not them. They should not be given any mandate. Now let's come to sanitation.
Yes.
Last week, I'm sure we had a committee of a whole in Parliament, because sanitation is so important to all of us. Inviting the local government minister, inviting the Minister of Sanitation to come and tell us their plans. To make sure. Oh yes, because we're all still facing the challenges. Okay. We cannot pretend.
You keep giving them money.
Oh, but for your budget, you cannot say.
But shouldn't you ask for proper accounting before you say giving them more money? They keep asking for millions of dollars to clean the city.
Sanitation is a very huge issue. And all of us, not just limiting it to the Minister for Sanitation or local government. If we all sit up as citizens, okay, and do our parts, I'm telling you, within a month, Accra should be clean.
But no, but that is not exactly accurate. If I do my part in my hold on, if I do my part in my house, I collect my refuse, as you say.
Yeah.
I bury that I'm supposed to bury. Yeah. I do separation as I'm supposed to do, and I put it in front of my gate. Yeah. I'm waiting for my municipal assembly to come and collect my waste, and for a month they haven't shown up. Yeah. What else can I do?
You can't do anything. What you can do is to let them know. Report them.
But we report them.
No.
Don't do anything about it.
Sometimes when we get opportunity like this, we talk good. But we actually don't practicalize whatever we talk. Because sanitation, I cannot sit here and tell you that it is only the local government and the Ministry of Sanitation that can clean Accra. It is not possible. So it's still a huge problem, although you don't expect the president to talk about everything. He hasn't got an opportunity to talk about. He spoke just for about 2 hours. Are you getting me? Yeah. So obviously he couldn't have said everything. Okay? But like I was saying, there are serious plans to make sure that Accra, not just Accra alone, Ghana becomes so clean. It is our responsibility.
Also, it was interesting to hear him talk about the payment of funds. He says Monday, those in the savings and loans space, 5 billion Ghana cedis will be disbursed to them. The reason why this sometimes gives us a bit of worry is the president says these things, but the people who are supposed to implement it somehow seem to always do something different from what the president has said. The president always gives expectation. He said this in December, and customers were very happy. He's repeated this at the State of the Nation and given a date. Monday is 2 days away. People expect to show up. We haven't heard from the Ministry of Finance on how this is going to be done. We don't know if they are going to pay a cap, because somebody might, the president says we are being paid, so I'm owed 2 million. He shows up to collect his 2 million. They tell you, okay, no, you can only get 100,000 today. That sort of thing. What is happening? Then he's at a DKM, which is also quite interesting.
Why? They are also part of the microfinance.
Well, theirs has been hanging for a bit, hasn't it?
Yes, and some of them have also been receiving payments. I spoke to some deputy ministers on this matter, and I'm sure by Monday, some payments obviously will be done. But they would have been telling us the program, how they've programmed the payment.
You should have heard something by now.
Oh, today is what?
Today is Saturday.
Obviously.
Payment starts Monday at 8.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That look, we have what we call the consolidated banks. Okay, I had my money with GN, and I have been paid. And quite a good number of people.
You're going to give yourself problems.
No, I'm not giving myself problems. There are a lot of people.
Paid.
Yes,
there are a lot of people.
I didn't even know
who have not been paid.
Yes, there are a lot of people who have not been paid. There are a lot of people who have been paid.
They have creditors. They will be coming.
Are you getting me? A lot of people have been paid. But just that sometimes when you're wearing a white shirt and there is some kind of red dot on your shirt, this is the red thing they see. Okay, there are a lot of people who have also been paid. I didn't even know. I was just there when I got a text. I've never written on my this thing showing that I'm somebody. No, and I went there to pick my money. Are you getting me? It was around 10,000. That's what I had with them, and they gave it to me. Okay, so it's not like some customers have not been paid. There are a good number of people who are receiving their money. But obviously, if you have over 500,000 or 600,000 with them, obviously the payments wouldn't be the same thing. There could be some kind of giving you small, trying to come along and give you some. At least that one, I think that the Ministry of Finance will do us good by coming out with the modalities they intend to implement in the payment. We are talking about close to about 4.6 million people. Yeah. So it's not a small number. So I think that the president has said it. I'm sure he knows what he's saying. And obviously, some customers will be paid. Because what feel the pain? You see, most of the people who are complaining are people who got their funds locked up. Okay? It is not our doing. We can all trace the genesis of these problems. And the previous government cannot run away completely from some of these responsibilities. So I agree. But I think that let's see what Monday brings. And I'm very sure that they will receive some payments.
All right, then. Thank you, Honorable Matthew Yendam. Let me go to Sydney and Franklin on this matter. Good morning once again. Sydney Casely Hayford. Franklin, State of the Nation address. You have to put everything together for me. So your overview and then the points that stood out for you. Same for you, Sydney.
Well, good morning, and good morning to see Sydney back. Good morning to your viewers and your listeners. I think the conversations about the state of the nation there have been quite a number of them, really. And I think this is a continuation of last week's. I think the president himself somehow stated that he wasn't going to list a litany of things that he believes they have achieved as a government. But it is also important, it's a constitutional mandate, constitutionally mandatory for the exercise to be done. So we may be seen to be repeating a number of things. I probably wouldn't do that, but I just pick a few things that have been discussed so far. I think the conversation Suhini brings to the table, which is, in spite of all these niceties, macro this, inflation that, and all of these figures that we throw out, which may be demonstrable, by the way, with some evidence, what happens when power changes, basically? Are we, not even when power changes, but are we able to, sustain them, right? That's not to suggest that there are no infractions on the part of political managers which lead to these slippages in any case. But I think I point to the discussion he brought because it just told me one thing, that even this government has tried to do quite a number of interventions, right? Especially they believe they want to move from taxation to production, and industrialization is key. But if you look at all the drivers of growth, which eventually even this year, what will drive the growth of this country, about 80% of it will be coming from the extractives. So question really would be, are we banking our hopes on enormous extractives? If you look at the 8 critical sectors which should be useful for intervention, at least local content-wise, it's only oil and gas, pharmaceuticals, even agriculture, the cosmetic, the cabotage, and the other industries, the other sectors, haven't seen much growth. The only growth we are seeing typically is within the extractives, the oil and gas. So what happens if the prices of oil, or indeed the other countries also find gas? What happens to us when there are political winds that are blowing across the globe, involving those who refine oil and sell to us at obviously better rates? There have been conversations about bauxite, for instance. If you look at the bauxite deal critically, we are better off not even bordering Atiwa. We probably are better off importing alumina, because the dynamics of the power arrangements, electricity that we need, do not even hold for that level of integrated aluminium, whatever that we want to do. You can't put an integrated aluminium system at Atiwa. That would be a complete joke. We probably are better off looking at the downstream of the aluminium industry, where we have enormous, should I say, leverage, right? Because people are producing alumina with almost $170 per ton in terms of the power that they pay. We are even subsidizing VALCO, paying almost $50. In fact, VALCO subsidizes, because again we export some of the alumina, right? What's it called? VALCO's output. So we're actually subsidizing people outside of this country in order to use the proceeds of our bauxite. Those conversations must be had. How do we sustain the growth? Because it looks to me that we keep dancing around the factors and then we keep using them for political posturing, really. I want to see a dedicated plan that tells me that there's a coordinated approach in terms of policy and design to ensure that our investments that we make in agriculture, for instance, would be so lasting, or would be so, what's the word I want to use, diffuse to the extent that we are seeing the impact. Sydney has tons of examples and tons of experiences to tell you that stop looking at the bigger picture of producing a lot of cash crops or producing a lot of food crops, but now start looking at the way you can, add value. And I think it's a broken record speaking about these things. The only serious interventions we've seen, apart from the food crops, the jump in the food crops, which is owed obviously to the planting for food and jobs, and kudos to the minister, by the way.
Yes.
If I look at it critically, the significant impact that has been made is within the cocoa sector. And I think for the promises the MPP made, they've achieved about 70% of the cocoa-related promises, which is useful. But we did a complete value chain analysis of the cocoa industry not too long ago. We published that report, and we found out that there's been significant interventions in the cocoa sector, which is useful. So I want to see the living income differential that Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana have managed to strike. Okay. The $400 per ton, used in a manner that it would be so diffused that it would affect the fortunes of cocoa farmers. Maybe those are some of the conversations I think we should be having on the back of the economy. Okay. I think issues around digitization are useful, and kudos to the government as well. There's been enormous efforts at trying to digitize the economy. Of course, the fanfare that comes with some of them may be needed, others may not, like the Ghana GPS, which is a total failure. But the point really is that it is a good thing to do. Everybody is doing it across the world anyway. But this digitization effort must also be matched with some coherent policy. I mean, you can do paperless, enhanced paperless system at the ports. We started giving you enormous revenues. But from 2016, you could see, just look at the data. From 2016, it was about 7 billion. From 2017, it's been almost 8 billion, 9 billion in 2018. And in 2019, you were getting almost 12 billion. Well, in 2018, you got 12 billion. In 2019, you got a little over 12 billion. But looking at the projection, you could have got a lot more, at least about 13 billion. The policy that was responsible for that dip was not particularly technically induced. And we see that while in one breath you are trying to do something useful in order to enhance revenues and probably the turnaround times, you are depressing revenues by policies that do not have systemic implications for our growth. Because if you reduce benchmark values,
interesting.
If you reduce benchmark values,
I'm just saying it because there seems to have been a lot of that on, the policy dissonance.
Well, there's a lot of policy dissonance in our system anyway. I mean, we see quite a number of them anyway. I mean, look, we can say that borrowing may not be a bad thing. Borrowing is good. But when you borrow, you must have the private sector in mind. Because the interventions you are going to make in the economy are not the ones that you'll be touting because you borrowed and so we should clap for you. They must have some systemic impact within the private sector. Someone will say, okay, they are borrowing to invest in infrastructure, so we want to see. That's where a lot of the critical analysis should sit. How do we ensure that these humongous sums that are borrowed, at superb interest rate, by the way, it was classic. I mean, there's an appetite for Ghana's debt, which is useful. But rather than clapping for ourselves, we should be interested in what the debt would actually be used for, which would spawn initiatives for the private sector to take advantage of. If you want to construct a railway line from here to Mpakadan and then maybe to the north, there's a missing link, which would have meant that, I think Sydney and I were talking about this not long ago. The Volta River is an important source of transport. Did you really need to spend 2.2 billion on that link? You probably would have done 1 billion and then allow the river transport to take care of the other parts of the... So there's a way you want to borrow money and utilize the money in such a way that these connections ought to be made properly. So beyond the good things that have been done and said, and of course we did say here last week that there's been some in the economy, and we, Imani, were not shy. In fact, we've never been shy whenever we've analyzed government promises to say that they achieved 54.35% on the economy. And interventions were clear. The only thing they haven't achieved in terms of the macro numbers is the double-digit GDP rate they promised, which obviously won't be attained. But again, the macro numbers are looking good. But we should be interested in the diffusory effect of these interventions. Did you want me to say something about mining?
No. Your time is up. Your time is up on this matter. I need to finish with Sydney and then get to why the NDC ran away from the State of the Nation. Sydney, you have roughly 6 minutes.
All right, good morning. My voice is still not back.
Yeah, but it's good to see you. We missed you last week.
What did you talk about last week?
We talked about you right on TV.
You want to have a take on that also.
we talked
about the same thing we are talking about.
But it's good to see you.
I'm glad to be back.
Right.
You never realize how much, a regular program like this becomes part of your fabric for existence. And then I had so many people calling me and asking me, what happened, where am I? And, somebody actually stopped me in traffic to let me know that he listens to me every Saturday and I should not take it lightly and not show up for work because, it kind of like disorientates him for the rest of the week, which is good to hear. It was flattering, it was nice, but we're there.
I want to focus your conversation for you. I'm not going to allow you to do the general. Last year, State of the Nation. Yeah, you're surprised. The president, and for me, it was a big miss. The president spoke about tax exemptions and the need to deal with it head on. In fact, he painted a very dire picture of what tax exemptions were doing to the economy and revenue mobilization.
6 billion.
Did not touch on it in 2020 at all. And I found it strange. Did you not? For something that he said we need to solve. Considering that just for the past 2 weeks we've been having conversations on tax exemptions, there's pressure to pass the tax exemptions bill as well.
I don't even know why they are passing a bill on that.
Yes, that
completely
also came up.
unnecessary. It's completely unnecessary to pass a bill on tax exemptions. I don't see the point.
But that's I'm
Well,
just putting it
Sydney
on the
will
table.
definitely say what we are saying.
But frankly, you don't agamalize.
Strangely enough, I frankly didn't care whether what he said or what he didn't say. I don't really care because my assessment of the state of the nation completely different from his assessment of the state of the nation.
Okay.
From where I sit and from where he's coming from, I think our paths don't necessarily have to, forge. The punchline at the end of the day, when it was all said and done, the health of the state of our nation is healthy. That's his assessment.
Yes.
Of course, we're going to talk about the now infamous NDC walkout, and whether or not their assessment is what prevails or not is a different story. You see, the state of the nation, the way I understand it, is an opportunity for government to come and boast. This is what the state of the nation represents. That it is a time for them to come and say, yeah, we have done A, B, C, D, E, and we are the best government in place. So I listen to everything that has been said and read about it, and I say, okay, if they want to say that what we have achieved here and here and here is the best thing in life, and we've been able to bring all of this to the people of Ghana, that's fair. Okay, that's fair. That's what they have to say. The State of the Nation address is not a budget, and it doesn't give a tic-tac-toe of everything that they have done and what they have achieved in financial terms. All we can see, and this is based purely on my reading of where the country is heading. If the economy is doing well, my assessment too, not NDC assessment or MPP assessment or PNC assessment, my assessment, if what I see and what is translating to me feels good and everything is right, I'm prepared to stand on my feet and say, yes, the state of our nation is healthy and is going somewhere. So let's not read the State of the Nation addresses as they come as gospel of any assessment. This is government's boast. This is government's boast of what they have achieved. The nice thing about it is that we as citizens can sit back and listen to him, and we will be able to make an assessment of whether he's delusional or not. All right? If he's coming to paint a picture of extreme rosiness, which we don't see or we don't agree with, then of course we are in dissonance with him. He's on one tangent and we are on a different tangent. So we don't see it. So bottom line, end of the day is, did everything he said, reflect to us as what is really happening in our lives? Is that what we observed?
He made mention. It was interesting.
That?
He said so himself that, yeah, I've gone through all these numbers, but the most important people in all this are the people at home.
And I wish politicians would not only just say that, but they will actually mean it. All right? And the problem that I think we are having is this head-on collision between the two main political parties. I believe sincerely that if we can find, or if they can find, a common ground on which to be able to ensure that this country moves forward, all right, put their selfish reasons aside, and we can get on with substantive things, it would be better. I don't like the blanket condemnation of anything that the opposition does, whether they be in power or not be in power. It's just a blanket, condemnation to make it look as if there's nothing else, there's nothing better going on in this country. I think that the MPP government have had a lot to crow about in the 3 years. I think they have significantly started many programs and many projects. Everything, of course, is still work in progress. Everything is still work in progress. And the big thing comes to whether or not you, as a citizen of this country, you agree with the direction in which we are going. The politicians will tell you that they came to you for a mandate to rule, and you voted them in. So the assumption is that you want them to continue doing what they have said they are going to do. So you follow them. Whatever they come up with differently or arguably, that's for them. They have the mandate to rule, and therefore they are putting into place everything that they believe we as citizens should want. So what's the state of our nation? All right? What's the state of our nation? I say we have too much to do. All right? Our state is too much to do, not enough resources with which to get it done.
Okay.
So whichever way we play it, we are still a broke country which can't afford to meet its obligations and its desires. What the people of this country want and what they think should be put in place for them to feel comfortable and happy in their country is not yet there. How long will it take to get there? Well, that is a question of what programs are being pushed. So until and unless we get to a point where the people of this country are so comfortable, right, that they are not going to go about threatening to disrupt everything that is going on in the country, we haven't really arrived.
Okay.
We are still desperate to get more revenues. We are still desperate to get more programs. We are still desperate to improve and get our free educational system working the way it should. We still, can't travel easily in this country, without getting into all kinds of accidents on the roads, and all of these things are there. Okay, but of course, with the State of a Nation address, the president is not going to come and focus on negatives. He will focus on only the positive things. And in all honesty, he will mention one or two negative things. But bottom line is, I don't think that as a country, anybody could go and stand anywhere and say Ghana is doing exceptionally well. We are not.
All right. Thank you very much, Sydney Kesley Hereford. Let me go through two messages, then start from Honorable Suhini, go to Lawyer Opon, and then Honorable Yenda. We are going to. Okay, let me go to. So that because we are discussing the boycotts now, but let me just take two more messages, and then we can begin.
What about
Galamsey is part of the conversation. I've already explained. Galamsey stands by itself today, so it's not. We are not even treating it as.
I was wondering who wrote that part of the speech.
We will get there. Good morning, Godfred. The issue of infrastructure development seems to be all about roads, the major trunk and second-class road leading to where the rich and powerful live. Sadly, there is a complete neglect of the community roads where majority of our people live, where most roads and gutters have gravely deteriorated over decades. These demand attention because for ordinary citizens, this is what matters. This is Mose from London. Edward from Kaswa says, your new company issues you a contract with a pay of 3,000 cedis, which is higher than your previous company's 1,000 Ghana cedis. When your salary comes, they have rather paid you 1,500 with the defense that it is still higher than your previous company's salary. Is that fair treatment? This is exactly what the NPP is doing. They should know that we will assess them based on the standards they promised, and per those standards, they have failed woefully. Yes, okay. So these are the messages that have come in. Let's switch a bit now to talk about the boycott that happened. First of all, let's be honest, this wasn't the first boycott by either side, whatnot. But, Sohini, I read the statement that your party put out, and we played portions of it, and the reasons that you outlined. Were these are things that you've put in the public domain for a very long time. Everybody knows about this. Your position on this is known. Was that enough reason for you to decide to walk out of your obligations as members of parliament on the day the president does the State of the Nation?
Well, if you permit me, I would like to just make references to a few issues that were raised initially before I answer your question. I agree with Sydney when he says that we must see the State of the Nation address as government boast. It is up to us as citizens to strip it bare of the boast and see how, some of the things boasted about relate to our real, living conditions. And that is why the question has to be, reiterated, even though it was raised by myself and also by Franklin, that, how are we able to sustain some of this flowery, micro indicators that we are posting? Because this is not the first time we have posted it. And that is why it is important to always go back to Ghana's highest, GDP growth ever of 14%, which slipped, yes, I agree with Nyendam, to 3%, but was projected to grow to 9%, given the investments that the oil sector had received in 2016. Yes, in 2017, we fell short of the 9% projection, but we got 8%. And there was that discussion
which propelled it to 8.1% in 2017.
Yes, so that's the point I'm making. The projection was 9% in 2017. These were projections by the international, monitoring groups, given the discovery of 10 and Sankofa and others. Yes, so that was the extract. That again is about the point Franklin makes about how our economy is dependent on the extractive, sector and all of that. So it slipped But the projection was that it will go to 8%. Now we got to 9%. We got 8% under the NPP because they came into power maybe in good time to harvest that 8%. They don't agree because they think that they did some things that contributed to the 8%. It's up to who you want to believe in this case. But then again, it slipped. But then again,
also argue that they were able to at least kick off the discovery of the
I agree.
Which you benefited the 14%.
I'm not going to litigate that, but I'm saying that when even though we had 14% and slipped to 3%, then certain work, got it to 8%. We slipped again to 6%.
But we know that the 14% was substantially because of the
oil
investments that
the oil companies
brought to Ghana.
It was
not as a result of any extraordinary.
But that's the point.
Which
is the point we have made. It does not change.
You see,
I
don't know what we're arguing about.
Lawyer Pong, we don't have too much time.
You see, when we make
let
the point,
let him go to the next point.
No, when we
you can't tell him to go to the next point.
Lawyer Pong,
he has to make his point.
Lawyer Pong, when we make the point that the 8% in 2017 was as a result of 10 engineering, the MPP doesn't agree. But yet, when we make the point of 14%, then we are told to say to admit that it was I'm saying I don't know what we are arguing about because you see,
without giving credit,
you see the 14%. I didn't even give credit. I just made reference to the 14% without even giving credit.
But you mentioned your government.
We had not discovered. I think the point is even moot. Really, the point.
I don't know what.
I don't know really go.
You are uncomfortable about.
We are not comfortable. We
because
don't
you see,
the principle.
I am talking. Yes, I am talking
about why we slip. And
no,
I'm saying
no,
that
no. I haven't even talked about why we slept.
Lawyer, you let him go. Let's hear him.
Please, let me repeat that. In 1 minute. In 1 minute. I'm saying that it is important that we look at why we are unable to sustain the flowery, micro indicators that we have often posted. And made reference to the fact that the highest we ever posted as a country, I didn't say as an EDC, was 14%, which again slipped to 3% without giving credit to anybody or damnation to anyone.
Nobody.
So I don't get the jittery.
Okay.
Then I move on to say that there were projections when we got to 3% that we will get to 8%, I mean to 9% because of 10 and Jinyami. Again, without giving credit to anybody. And I said, yes. And that, then there was a change of government. And instead of the 9%, we got 8%, which is also still good from 3%. But then again, from 8%, we have slipped back again to 6%, which brings about the question of why do we always slip? And so have we changed our structure of the economy well enough to be able to guarantee that when we post these micro indicators, we will actually sustain them to translate into the benefits that the people want. So I don't get why we are jittery. I've given no condemnation. I've given no credit. But you see, they are facts.
I think Sweeney has.
Now moving on.
Let's talk about the boycott.
Moving on.
Is that a rhetorical question, or you are asking for an answer?
Well, it will be for me to determine.
Yes, and you see, I talked about it.
I
talked about the
Bisabi.
promise to change the Government economy, which we have not seen being done earlier in my first submission. So I won't go into that one yet. But you see, I would have loved to touch on sanitation, but because you are pushing me to go into the reasons why we boycotted, I'll do that. You see, yes, I agree with you that the reasons we gave at our press conference are not issues we have not raised before.
Yes.
But the fact that we have raised them before and they remain issues unresolved does not mean we can't raise them again. We raise the issues not just for the attention of the public. We raise the issues for them to be resolved. And so if
it looked more
issues,
like you raised them to embarrass the president.
No. If the president finds them embarrassing, then he must change the way he does things. And you see, I agree, because even calling the president a dictator is not the first time we have called him so. In fact, when he called off the referendum, the minority leader made reference to the fact that he was acting undemocratic. Our Member of Parliament for Tamale Central and former Minister for Roads, Honorable Inusa Fuseni, made the same reference that this is undemocratic. The behavior of the president is a threat to our democracy as a country. When the Emil Short Commission report was set aside, even though we all thought that was a fine opportunity for us to use to deal with the vigilante threat to the peace of this country, we made the point that the president and his conduct served as a threat to our democracy.
But also, considering the fact that in the post that Short Commission report, we've had the vigilantism bill, there have been several interactions between the MPP, NDC, Peace Council, God knows which other CSO, trying to resolve this particular matter. There have been moves to try and make things much better than the situation was before the Short Commission. You do not admit?
The best opportunity we ever had as a country, and I doubt if anybody will disagree with me, to deal, convincingly with the vigilante issue was to implement the recommendations of the Emil Short, report without watering it down and without disregarding some of the findings, which the president lost, because I call it an opportunity which he lost. And you see, in that context, anything else that happens thereof cannot be seen to be wholly, meant to deal with the vigilante situation that we have as a country. So we have expressed these concerns, but they remain as concerns unaddressed. And so at every opportunity that we get, and we think it is appropriate for us to raise the concerns, we'll raise it. We have also talked about the threat to the media. Look, no democracy in this world has survived without a free and plural media. And let nobody deceive you that these are, state agencies implementing regulations. Because you see, when Mr. Harun Atta and Malik Kweku Bako were arrested under the criminal libel law, it was law. But that did not make it right, and that did not shut anyone up. It was law. We could have said that is the government implementing a law, so why are you making noise? But we saw that beyond the government implementing a law, it was a threat to free speech. Again, the Freedom International, which is an international agency that looks at media operations in the world and how free they are to operate, have a report, a 2011 report, where it is stated that governments have become smarter, and so they no longer use brute force when it comes to shutting critical media down, because they will get international, condemnation. So what they use now are regulations, which are subtle means to shut critical media down in preparation for impending elections. And for me, what is happening in this country fits the report without miss. Okay. Where you have stations like Radio Gold, which, by the way, we all know in this country, in 2008, at a point in time, became the only media house that stood between Nana Ado's presidency and, the lack of it. So if he becomes president years later, and for some strange reasons that we are told by Media Foundation for West Africa, they are closed down because they are not the only station, according to Media Foundation West Africa, that faulted, so-called, but is shut down. And then you have Raymond Acha, who again at the time in 2008 was the lead man, at Radio Gold, having suffered the fate that he suffered recently, that smacks of dictatorial tendencies, that smacks of, if you like to say, a debt fully paid.
No, but so on the Raymond Acha situation,
we're talking about...
Are you asking us to ignore the 4 or 5 years of legal documentation?
He's doing vested interest analysis,
which is not complete.
That we have
which
seen.
has not ended.
No, I'm just saying, if you say, don't ignore it.
You cannot ignore that. Don't ignore it.
There have been several warnings.
But don't also ignore the fact that the process have not been exhausted.
No, but isn't it a bit of a stretch to say
no matter
it's
the stretch,
payback
law is law,
and it is worth the minority walking out of the state of the nation?
No.
That is a very question. Now I'm saying, is it not a bit of a stretch to say that the president is doing payback, and in doing so, we have the only way we can, the best way for us to address this is to go to Parliament and walk out?
No, we are not saying that. You see, I have given you a number of things.
Yes, you've listed.
So don't
I'm not limiting it.
So don't limit it to just this one.
I am not.
And you see, I didn't even, and I could have given you more reasons.
Sure.
You know, to show that
you added Swale and all those things.
To show that the president and his handling of this country has become a threat to our democracy. So you can call it flimsy, but I don't. And I agree with you that we should not ignore the court processes in the Raymond Archer case. But we should not also ignore the fact that the fact that a court process delays does not mean you should use brute force. No, let's not ignore that.
Okay.
You shouldn't use brute force if the court processes have not been exhausted, like we saw in this case. Then you have the situation of Ahmed Swale. And it is not just the NDC that is concerned. In fact, the United States Human Rights Report cites Ahmed Swale's killing and government's inaction as one of the dents on Ghana's credibility when it comes to free press and human rights as a whole. And for me, what is even, more shocking is the fact that when the Minister for Justice and Attorney General was asked a question about the prosecution we were expecting from the announced expose, the minister in her answer to Parliament said categorically that the case has delayed because of the murder of Ahmed Swale, who was a key witness. And one would have thought that for such a case and for a key witness to be murdered, the government will be interested in finding the killers and the reasons for his murder. But you have international agencies reporting about government lackadaisical approach to that investigation. Then you begin to wonder if there's a cover-up at play somewhere. And so we are saying that in the face of all of this, we are uncomfortable with a president who does not listen to good reason as it is expected in a democracy, yet expects others to listen to him. And so we will walk out. And that is why we walked out. After respecting the fact that there were guests of Parliament. In one instance, in fact, the minority leader even went to welcome the guests, got them seated. The national anthem played, which we stood as patriots to respect before walking out. And I like the point that you made. In fact, I noticed that initially, some of our colleagues on the MPP side forgot, it seems, that they had boycotted State of Nation address before. And so portrayed it as unprecedented disrespect to Speaker and Parliament and the President. Only for them to be reminded that indeed 2013, when they had issues, you can call it or justify it however you want. They walked out. Even though the Constitution is still what it is, says that once a president is declared by the Electoral Commission, whatever functions he performs, he does so legitimately as a president until the Supreme Court declares otherwise. And so, working or staying to listen to him as president was not going to be against any law. But you can use that as justification that you had a case against him. It does not change the fact that if we also have a case against this current president, and we believe that he has become despotic and unyielding to good advice.
These are strong words to use. Despotic, dictatorial.
Well, you let him finish. We'll address it.
I like that. We will address it. I'm in comfortable company. We will address it. I like that.
But these are strong words, wouldn't you say? Politically, if you say somebody's a despot, somebody's dictatorial.
No.
Illegitimate.
No, you see, you can call them strong words.
Yes.
It does not mean they don't exist within the context of what we say.
Okay.
It doesn't mean they don't exist.
In fact, it is the NDC's reality.
Yes, it is not the NDC's reality. In fact, it is the reality of well-meaning Ghanaians and other international observers. And I've given you, international, reports on some of these cases.
Right.
So you don't reduce it to the NDC's reality.
Okay.
It's beyond the NDC. And so we are making the point that even in a democracy, you can have a democratic dictator. Why? Rawlings was a Democrat. He was democratically elected. Did it stop Senior Sydney and Co. from calling some of his actions dictatorial and despotic? Why? Those times the words were not strong. So let's be honest and sincere about some of these happenings.
Okay.
If you see it walk like a duck and quack like a duck, it's a duck.
Thank you very much.
Sometimes it's a goose.
Honorable Alassane Suhuyini, Member of Parliament for Tamanilon. Honorable Nyidam, you were in the house. Did you move to go and sit on the other side? No, you cannot move. You have a specific seat allocated to you, so you cannot move.
We can move.
So you moved to take a seat.
He's been sitting on
That
seats
was
that
even
are not
cross
his.
carpeting. We'll raise it soon. Some of them cross the maze to our
Yes.
side. Cross
He's
carpeting.
been crossing.
He has been crossing. What did you make of it?
It's baseless. It's of no meaning. You see, I will admit that walkouts are part of our practices. It's not even codified somewhere to say that members of parliament can walk out. Our standing orders, we don't see anything like that. But it's a way of protesting and trying to carry some message across. Within even this meeting, they've walked out before. But normally, when a report is tabled and they feel strongly they don't want to vote for it, you debate it, and when it's time for voting, they may decide to abstain or walk out. Very normal. Sometimes we complain, but sometimes when they want to demonstrate it, let them do it. That's why Upon was telling you that this is not a motion, it's not a report. It's a different thing altogether. Coming of president to the House is a different thing altogether. Yes, 2013, like he said, we all know the 2013 case. Everybody knows it. We came out clearly the very day we went to court that we wouldn't do business with the president. So it was something that we had a press conference. The party itself took a position. We took a position. Okay? So when it was time for Sona, we didn't even go there. It was clear. Okay? But all the reasons he gave, I always ask them. And I thought you would have asked him whether they would debate the state of the nation.
Well, I didn't ask him because your leader says it doesn't matter. They can debate.
No, you have asked him. Because we are talking about principles. Okay? We did not debate. We decided to stay off and never debated. Because, like he said, he described the president whichever way. But the same, statement, that the same message that you disagreed and walked out, you want to come and debate the same thing. So what are you coming to say?
First of all, we haven't told you we are coming to debate it, and we haven't said we will.
That is why I said I wish he asked you that question, whether you were going
he will
to
not be in a
debate
position
it,
to give
or
me
you
an
wouldn't
answer.
debate it.
Unless I have
we have
the minority
not
leader in
taken
position
a
of me.
position
It doesn't help anybody.
We haven't.
All the
Hassan
excuses
said that.
Suhuyini, please let him speak.
No,
You
it's
walk
not.
out.
Suhuyini. I'm talking to lawyers. Sorry.
you walk out because you don't want a new register. So you want the president to tell the electoral commissioner not to register the people? That is what they want the president to do? Sometimes, you see, they were so embarrassing, and they embarrassed the whole NDC. They thought they were going to benefit from what they did. But unfortunately, unless hardcore NDC supporters who will praise them, hardcore NDC will praise them, because any reasonable Ghanaian, like he used, will disagree with them. Because in one breath, your leader went and walked in the president. The president was seated, only for you to make a U-turn and walk out. That's because somebody called you guys not to come. Your founder was there, seated. All former heads of state, with the exception of John Dramani Mahama, former president, who decided for some reason not also to come. Because he knew very well his guys were going to walk out.
Oh, goodness me.
Decided not to come. And then all the excuses he gave, Radio Gold, and I'm so happy he himself admitted that they fought it.
How?
Oh, you said they were not the only media houses that have fought it.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Is that not the case? Which means you are admitting here that they fought it.
Like Oman FM did.
Whichever way. Okay? So you think the president should tell NCA that anybody who faulted because of press freedom, let them go.
Selective.
In one breath, you are talking about Raymond Archer's case. Trying to use the law. In your case, Radio Gold, there shouldn't be law.
Oh.
Some of these double stands, it won't help anybody.
Well, he's saying maybe selective application of the law.
I don't know. To
victimize a station that everybody knows is very critical of the government.
If you know you are very critical of government, do the right thing.
If not, government will deal
It
with
is not, you are wrong. You see, that's what I'm saying, that I am happy. Where is the dictatorship in this? You yourself you have fought. You see, I'm not answering you directly. I'm answering him because he claims that you are saying that is your mouthpiece. Okay? That is your mouthpiece. So if this is your mouthpiece, make sure that you do the right thing. So if you decide to sit down and allow your own station to default several years, and today NCA decide to close you down, you go to court, the court tells you what to do, then you don't come and say that because of that you wouldn't listen to the president. What sense does it make? But I am saying that, look, whether they were there, they decided to stay, whatever reason that they are alluding to their walkout, it was baseless. Initially, they said the statutory payments were not being done. Common fund has not been paid, and because of that, they were going to stay out, and they paid the common fund. Now they are not talking about it. They said it's not part of their reasons. Because you had the opportunity to demonstrate in Tamale. You did your massive demonstration in Tamale to register your protest. You came to Kumasi, you did the same thing. Eminent and prominent people invited you and the electoral commissioner. You sat down, you talked about this new register. What else do you want us to do? In 2016, we called for a new register. The electoral commissioner, in her own wisdom, decided that, look, they were not going to have a new register.
So you removed her and put.
We went to court. The court brought out their ruling and directed the electoral commission to do certain things per their ruling. We never walked out because we did not get a new register. We stayed and we listened to the president. So what they did was needless. It was shameful. And I'm happy they are not getting any good publicity for what they did. And we all myself Mother Ghana. You see, sometimes it is about Mother Ghana. It's not about your political party. It was about Ghana at that time. The whole international community were seated and looking at us. Then you come in, you want to put placards there and walk out. That was the only reason why they came in. That was the only reason. So that they could put the placards there and walk out. Because if they did not come, they can't bring in the placards. That was the only reason.
Yeah, you want to remove the placards.
But what? Because they have decided not to.
And ripped them up. We saw some of your MPs ripping them up.
It was embarrassing. You see, that is their problem. You see, at leadership level, we agreed, okay, that these placards still don't help. Obviously, they will also want to compare, but there must be a stop at a certain point. So we all agree that those things, we should not even allow them, because we are talking about honorable members. So the house should be respected when it comes to some of it. You can heckle, you can do whatever you want to do. But to carry placards and make those kind of things is needless. Okay? And upon all that, they started doing it again. Next time when somebody else is doing it, you start complaining. But I think that as a house, we must have principles. But what they did yesterday, what they did last week, Thursday, it was needless, it was shameful. And I want them categorically to say whether they will debate it or they will not debate it.
You're waiting for them in the house.
I'm waiting for, even today. So, should tell us whether they want to debate or they don't want to. Because 2013, we stayed off, we did not debate.
Yeah, all right. Well, that is not Suhini's place to give an answer for right now. We'll wait for his leader to speak on the matter. The big issue, we'll return after the break. We'll hear from lawyer Yawopon Franklin Kujo Sinikes Lieford. After that, Galamsey. Welcome back to the big issue discussing the state of the nation. And after this round, we'll go straight to the Galamsey conversation. And that is where we will wrap up. But for those of you who want to send messages in, you can do it via our WhatsApp line +233 549 986 996 or +233 550 5858 32. Lawyer Yawopon, boycott. Quickly.
Yes, I think it's rather a walkout. For me, there is a difference that I see, especially traditionally. I mean, if you don't want to attend the call of a chief, you can do so. It used to be a crime, but that has been removed from the law. But to appear before a chief, let's say your village chief at a derby, and because he says something you dislike, or he has previously said something you dislike, you walk over him. They say, "What you are so?"
But analogy though, there's chiefs have subjects.
Pardon?
Chiefs have subjects.
They have subjects.
Yeah.
What does it mean?
But we are not subject to the
there isn't
president.
Let me just move on. So that's how I want to see it. And not only that, the Chief Justice was there. You walk over the Chief Justice as well. And your own speaker. As for the speaker, sometimes I just, not this speaker in particular, but the speaker, sometimes I lament for them. Members of parliament can look into their eyes and say all manner of things. And when a citizen of Ghana say similar or even less offensive to one member of parliament, he's all before them. But they say worse things to their own speaker. They sometimes forget that the speaker was elected as they were.
No, the speaker is not elected.
Please, when you elect the speaker, you have also elected the speaker in our name.
Not as we were elected.
But the point is, that is what the Constitution says. The Constitution says that for you to be, not you in particular, for a person to be a member of parliament, he must make sure he satisfies some conditions, which is the same conditions that the speaker must also satisfy, and that we should vote for you. But in the case of speaker, members of parliament should elect the speaker. That is what the Constitution says by way of the whether election or appointment or selection of a speaker. It doesn't make him less representative than you who went to the polls and only a constituency voted for you. So even you who were voted for by a single constituency, I see all of you as members of parliament for the whole country. All right? So all the three organs of state were there. You walk over them. In actual fact, it is the state that you disrespected. But even when more so, and I'm not holding brief for the majority, they were also complicit. Yes. When you say, go away, go away, what are you doing? No, please. What has become of one of the most important tools for members of parliament, which is negotiation? What has become of it? Don't we see it elsewhere when there are heated debates about Brexit? And the Prime Minister had almost lost it.
Hold on. But Honorable Nyendam says he wants to make a quick
in this case,
interjection.
The initial signal we picked was that if some funds were not paid,
that is Assembly Common Funds.
So we have to work so hard to the extent that those monies were paid before President comes in.
But those monies are not paid.
He's talking about negotiation. Are you getting it? But if the minority that very day decide to pull a surprise, how do you negotiate with
But
because it was a surprise they put.
I get you.
Because we are both from Parliament and he has made this point, it's important that I correct the impression that creates. Look, there is no way the minority would have, carried out a threat to walk out of Parliament because some common funds hasn't been paid. Because you see, the common fund is not paid to only minority members. So why will minority members take it as welcome?
Because we made mention of that.
As MPs, sometimes as majority members, they are unable to raise these issues that affect them and their constituencies because it will look like they are attacking their government. So it is the whole of Parliament that would have boycotted the Sona if it were
it was a surprise.
But before you go on, I was told that for most of you members of Parliament and the minority, it was even a surprise to you because the instruction came like 20 minutes before.
That is not true. We had a caucus meeting in the morning before we came, remember? So it's not true. Whatever you were told is just part of the bleeding symptoms that you see from the opposition.
The point is, these concerns, were they the concerns of members of Parliament or the NDC as a party? Because, number one, in fact, I heard Honorable Sechi Mensah that he was aware that President Mahama was against it. And that Honorable Babeng was against it. He said it. I heard him. And so what changed?
He doesn't speak for them.
The founder of the party. Speak for them. Please. Well, nobody has come out to deny, unless you do so after this. I'm saying that if it's a party decision, why did the founder? I say that by the constitution, there's nobody like founder, but NDC people disagree. Or maybe you can say one of the founding fathers. Why was he sitting there? Wasn't the party chairman there?
No, he wasn't.
Wasn't Esedun Ketia there?
That's general secretary.
Yes. So why didn't he also leave?
Can I answer?
No. Please, you let me finish. You see,
Upon quickly, I want to move on to Galamsey. So.
Do they have a party chairman?
why you don't?
Party chairman
You don't want
died.
me to have.
Oh, no, I said move
so
on.
the point also is that if you justify what you've done today on the basis of the default of MPP, or if MPP does so on the basis of default of NDC, one day the citizens should also boycott the election of members of parliament. We will see who will lose his job.
Okay.
I think one day we should also do that, because we and again, why can't members of parliament feel independent? Those people we claim we are copying. When Tony Blair wanted to declare join the war on Iraq, most of the people who didn't vote for him were rather members of his party. He had to get members from the other party to even enable him get majority. Even recently, Boris, his own brother resigned, not just as a member of parliament, not just a minister, also a member of parliament, because he doesn't share the vision of the head of his own party, who happened to be his brother. Why is it that in this country we are not even practicing parliamentary democracy? Ours is hybrid. Okay? And so you cannot tell me that because a group of people from different constituencies say this is our decision, you cannot exercise your own independence of mind. People used to praise PC appeal for it. Where are the types of PC appeal for it? In both parties. I think the time has come that when we elect people, the electorate, the constituents, their views and opinions and the objective should be at the forefront of everything that the member of parliament does, and not just because a group you belong to has just said that this is the decision we have taken, whether you like it or not. Move. When others are able to tell their own leaders in parliament where the whip is even highest, and again, it is wrong to even compare to the UK parliament, because in the UK, sovereignty resides in parliament. In Ghana, it resides in the people, not in parliament. And by extension, the constitution. So, for me, if they think that previously MPP did it, NDC will do it, in future MPP too will do it, it will come to a time we will also do it.
Thank you very much.
And will not vote for any member of parliament. No, please, you see, our members of parliament should understand that
your point is well
they
made.
represent us. I'm also wearing black, and this is a way of also protesting.
Your point is well made. Thank you very much.
To go to the closet to look for this black
today, as Speaker of the Big Issue House, Franklin and Sydney, I will make up time for you on the Galamsey. So I will end this one here.
No, you can't.
But
You can't. I have just one comment to make.
I will not make any comment on Galamsey.
that is what Sydney always says. That is what Sydney always says until you get to the actual conversation.
I think we can have. I will spend less than a minute.
Okay, go on.
Well, look, in competitive politics, these things usually happen. And I don't think that the history is not replete with these kinds of examples. And especially in an election year, posturing, people do all kinds of things. The only thing we did was to ask a question. Actually, the poll, the money, what's it called, Facebook platform, and ask a question. The minority have decided to boycott. You call it a walkout. This year's State of the Nation's address, do you agree with their actions? This poll was conducted on 20th February at 10:43. It will end in 4 days, but as we speak, 72% out of 2,400 voters say yes. 28% say no. I end my matter there.
All right. Thank you very much.
See how popular it is so far.
They support
They support the
72.
walkout. And 28% say they don't support the walkout.
Yeah.
To see how popular it is.
It's not popular.
So you can say
It depends on those who are voting.
and say that people were not happy with that.
By the way, on the Ibadi
I
platform,
mean, this
I
has
don't know
its,
who votes.
shortfalls.
Yes,
That's what I'm saying. This has
No
its,
problem.
have its shortfalls, but that is just a reflection somehow of
So it's okay.
Popular opinion.
It's okay.
Of the workout.
Sydney, you are saying I should give up. You give up your Galamsey time.
What's my I said enough about Galamsey.
Okay, all right.
I don't
Go
have
on then.
anything more
I'll keep
to
it
add.
between
I don't have anything more to add. Look,
Franklin and the rest.
we are living in a state of fear. Okay, this country has deteriorated to the point where the president can initiate action to have anybody arrested and jailed based on whatever reason he wants. Okay, maybe some of you don't realize it, but there's a
You're speaking in general terms here.
there is a curfew going on.
You're speaking in general terms.
Right? There is a curfew.
Sydney, I just need you to clarify. You are speaking in general terms.
What does that mean?
No, you're saying the president. I'm saying by that you mean the general body of the president, or you're saying this president?
President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo,
Okay.
all right, in his dictatorial capacity as a despot of this country, somebody who, even though he was elected by a majority of the people of this country, has now turned coat, no more believes in democracy, and is having everybody arrested willy-nilly according to the terms of his dictatorship. He has no interest in preserving a democracy which we have been practicing for God knows how many, 27 odd years. We are now in a state of fear. As we sit down here today, you and I might walk out of the studio and there will be armed guardsmen and policemen waiting to arrest us and jail us. In jail, we will be tortured, flogged, completely denied all facilities. We will be fed rice water with worms in order to let us understand that we are not in a country where free speech is tolerated, where you can get up and express your will and your wish. It will be completely wrong for you to think that you will even have a chance to be released in the near future. We are sitting in a land where even as you are driving along, there are armed policemen and military people following you. If you dare say anything negative about the president, you can be jailed for life. We are in a country where there is no food. The economy has totally collapsed. Everything is completely wrong. And yet we are not allowed. And yet we are not allowed. Yet we are not allowed to protest.
That's what you're actually saying.
All right, we are not allowed to protest. You cannot organize a demonstration in this country. You cannot stage a protest of any sort. You cannot go and sit on air and say anything negative about Nadu and the way he's governing this country. That alone could be a subject and a condemnation and a death sentence.
Your point being?
This is the country that the NDC want us to say is Ghana.
No.
This is the NDC's point of view, that this is what is going on.
Ghana has never been that way under a democracy.
Oh, Rawlings democracy,
No.
as you yourself cited.
No, that's not true. Under Rawlings democracy, people demonstrated. Under Rawlings democracy, people sat on radio to criticize him.
Under Rawlings democracy, people were shot.
Kumepreko, you remember Kumepreko?
You don't have you forgotten Kumipreko?
Well, Ahmed Swale
so
is shot under Nana Addo's democracy.
how old were you at Kumipreko?
Oh, I was.
You were
I
a
think
small boy.
I was in secondary school then. I was in secondary school then.
And this is what you are saying Ghana is today.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm saying what the picture you have painted has never existed under a democratic
But that's the
regime in
picture
Ghana.
that you are painting.
No, I haven't
That's the
painted
picture
that
that the
picture. You have
NDC.
painted
That is
that
my point. You see,
But when
you
you say
are
it was-
you are
it's a
you are
dictatorial
you are exaggerating.
Yes, what I say.
You
That's
are
an
exaggerating
exaggeration.
No,
issues
it's
to
not
the
an
point.
exaggeration.
All right, you are
not an
exaggerating issues to a
exaggeration.
point where you even actually go and hold a press conference. And if you want to, we can read some of the items that you said in your press conference.
Yeah.
I think those are
And you have repeated those
points of
things
their
here.
Departure. I'm not
All right,
sure they are
and you have
saying-
raised those issues here. Say Nanado is a despot. He's a dictator.
Yeah.
He's practicing
Selective application of
selective
the law.
application of
Yeah.
principles
Yeah.
and shutting down radio stations
Yeah.
in order to be able to be vengeful of something that was done to
And
him.
you have not proven that they are wrong. examples I gave are not happening.
When you paint pictures like that, knowing fully well that those pictures are not true.
They're true.
All what you are doing, it is not true. Raymond Archer's business was not shut down because he had
You can always find a reason in government for why you do.
But it is that
the wrong application of a law.
It is the selectivity of what you are saying in order to paint a picture of chaos and anarchy, which is wrong because you know it is not true. Okay, you know very well it is not true.
No, I don't.
Same thing you are doing. Radio Gold was shut down because it's an opposition station. It is not. The reasons were very, very clear. Hadn't paid your registration fees ever since you were set up. Why shouldn't you be closed down? That is the rule of law. That if there's a regulation and you have signed on to the regulation and you refuse to abide by the regulation, government has the right to close it down.
Harun Atta went to court under the rule of law, but Sydney demonstrated.
Yes, I demonstrated. And for your information, I have been close enough to being shot, right, at the point of demonstration at the barrier.
Good. You demonstrated. Okay? That was good.
Yes, but we did not distort the
Radio
truth.
Gold is rule of law.
We did not distort the truth, and we did not protest because of made up stories.
But
what
Sydney,
was going
again,
on.
I go back to, I know I raised the issue of the meanings of those words, but could be their reality. You can't force their reality on them, is it?
Oh, but sometimes, just because somebody feels this is my reality, you all accept it. Is that
what I'm saying? You see, there are people who will tell you that.
But sometimes
you say there's a threshold for that.
There's a certain responsibility that comes with being a politician, all right? And being in a position of being an opposer to an existing government. There's a certain responsibility. Before you get up and you say certain things, first of all, be mindful that you are not deceiving the public generally. You have to make sure, and that is your contribution you bring to the table. All right? There's international community sitting in there. They were sitting there in the chamber. And when the camera panned, you could see the horror on their faces as all this was going on. And Yaopong is right. It wasn't only the opposition that was irresponsible in all of this. The majority too were irresponsible. Okay? And if you look at what they did, all right, this is senior high school, university stuff. Okay? Where you go and you are chanting and you are singing and you are protesting. What was the whole spectacle for? What was the spectacle for?
In some parliaments, people
your frustrations are well noted.
It was a childish demonstration. It was a childish demonstration, and it was totally unnecessary. And everything that they had, that they had written, that they said they are protesting about, these are all issues that are being dealt with and are being addressed. And the government in this country, all right, we have fought for it.
Not enough on the register.
We have fought for it. Those of us who have been involved in the struggle of trying to get democracy running in this country, we have fought for this for decades. All right? And this is not what we expect our parliament to reflect at this time.
Point well made.
Not when I've put
my
life on the line so many times, not just once, so many times.
Thank you very much, Sydney.
And then you come and do this.
Thank you. Sydney Kesley Hayford, your point is well made.